Earlier this week, I had the opportunity to spend a couple days in Seaside, Oregon, the coast, with some colleagues for the Byberg Preaching Workshop. This is a preaching workshop that's been going on for years and years, and every year it draws preachers from the Pacific Northwest region primarily, from Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and then a few stragglers from even farther away. Every year there is a keynote speaker, and this year was a very special year because we had two keynote speakers. This year, our keynote speakers were, first, Rick Steves, whose name many of you recognize. If you don't recognize Rick Steves' name, he is a travel guru. He got very popular in the 80s by publishing his book, Europe Through the Back Door. And he has continued to publish books and travel guides. His mission is to invite people to explore the world, to get out of their comfort zone, and to discover that there are other people out there in the world and that they can make connections and community with those other folks who are different from them. He takes people on tours every single year. Many people in this congregation have been on a Rick Steves tour. He had a show on PBS. All of the episodes of all of his shows from PBS are available for free on his website, so you can watch those at any time if you would like. And he spoke to us about travel as a spiritual act at this conference. And then the second co-speaker was his girlfriend. How many of you knew he had a girlfriend? Some people did, yeah. His girlfriend's name is Shelley Bryan Wee. She happens to be the bishop of the Northwest Washington Synod. He's dating his bishop. So she is wonderful. So she's the bishop in the Seattle area. And so the two of them were the keynote speakers together for this conference at the beginning of this week. During the conference, we had many opportunities to worship together, and at one of the worship services, Bishop Shelley preached, and she began her sermon by drawing our attention to a short video that she had watched on Twitter, X, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And this is a video that you may have heard about. It was posted on the Department of Homeland Security's Twitter account, or X account. And it's quite clearly a recruitment video for ICE, for customs enforcement, immigration enforcement. And it's very sensationalized. It begins with people in military gear being lowered down by ropes from a helicopter that's burning up as we're watching it. It includes images of people taking a ship, people in military gear boarding and taking over a ship. Images of doors being blown open, and images of immigrants in handcuffs. And the music over top of it is Lord's version of "Everybody Wants to Rule the World." It's clearly playing on young men's dreams of playing the hero, and trying to show that you could get to be basically this awesome sort of caricature of a hero from movies and blowing things up, and you can come join ICE and be part of that. But what is really amazing about this video is that it is accompanied by the scripture that we have for our gospel today. So one of the first things that you see in the video are the words, "Blessed are the peacemakers." And a few, 30 seconds later, you get a screen that says, "For they shall be called sons of God." Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Today, our gospel reading is what we call the Beatitudes. And as you probably, before even hearing about this video, knew, the Beatitudes have been so misused throughout Christian history. It's a section of the Bible that has been just widely misinterpreted and twisted and used for oppression in so many ways. And yet, it's also a passage that is key to understanding who Jesus is. This is the very beginning of the Sermon on the Mount. One of Jesus' most famous teaching passages in the Bible is the Sermon on the Mount. This is how he starts. It's like the prologue. It's the introduction to the Sermon on the Mount. This is early in his ministry in Matthew. This is a key insight into who Jesus is and what his teaching is. Some of you are familiar with a strain of theology called liberation theology. It's a theological strain that's very special to me, that's part of what helped me reconstruct my faith after I had moved away from the church. And it is a way of understanding Jesus as liberator, liberation theology. So the idea that what Jesus is doing on earth is trying to set us free, trying to move us past whatever is holding us back, whether that is oppression or pain or trauma or small-mindedness, whatever it is that is holding us and our communities back. Jesus is trying to remove those barriers to set us free. We gave candles to our newly baptized. We believe that that candle is in everyone and that sin gets piled onto it. You know, all the bad things that happen in the world, the oppression, the pain, all of that can bury that light that is within us. And liberation theology is the belief that that light is still there and that the work of God is to unveil that light, to get all that other stuff that divides us and causes pain and suffering out of the way so that we can flourish and that our light can shine. This passage, the Beatitudes, is an important passage in liberation theology because it shows where God's heart is. It shows that who God is with. God is with the poor. God is with the brokenhearted. God is with the oppressed, the ones who are persecuted for trying to do good in the world. The technical term in liberation theology is God's preferential option for the poor. God's preferential option for the poor, like God prefers the poor. It's a kind of a fancy way of saying that God takes sides in this world, that God is on the side of the oppressed. God is not on the side of the oppressor. That can be a little bit confusing because we believe in a God of love, and a God who loves everyone and accepts everyone and welcomes everyone and does not turn anyone away. And so there's a tension there. Rick Steves talked about this tension in one of his talks at the beginning of this week. He talked about the way that sometimes the wealthy, of which he is a part of the wealthy class, sometimes people like him who are multimillionaires, take a lot of joy in trying to invest their money and grow their money as much as possible. You know, they have a bunch of money, and then their sense of worth comes from using that money to make even more money, and that's their sense of success. And he talked about how, for him, he tries not to live into that. He tries to find joy in an alternative way. So he talked about owning a low-income housing building. And that when he goes to bed at night, instead of thinking about, you know, how much money he made in the stock market that day, he tries to think more about the people he's able to house, the people that have housing because he invested in a low-income housing facility. And he says that that's actually selfish for him. He gets joy out of that. That's something that he enjoys, and it's a way that he feels better about himself and feels better about the world. He also talked about folks who want to take money away from education programs in our community because they say, well, I don't have children or I'm not in school anymore. And he talked about like how that doesn't make sense to him because even though he doesn't have children in school at this time, he wants to live in a community that is educated and that has access to resources so that they can live in a way that benefits him. And he says, that's selfish. I want to live in a community that has this education resources. That's good for me. And so I think that goes a bit with what I was saying about God's taking sides. And perhaps it would be better to say that God is on everybody's side, but God doesn't take up every cause. I think God is on the oppressor's side in that God wants the oppressor to lose. When I think about white supremacy, that's not really good for white people either, right? So I think that, yes, God is on everybody's side, but sometimes that means that you lose the battle, that God actually doesn't want your cause to be advanced. Because if your cause is something that's harming the community, it's actually bad for you too. So God does not take up every cause. God takes up the cause of the oppressed. God takes up the cause of the poor, the brokenhearted. Often, we fall in those categories too. How many of us have been brokenhearted? How many of us have mourned and felt like our tears would never turn into dancing? How many of us have experienced rejection and felt the pain of that? How many of us have experienced broken relationship? God is on the side of the suffering. God is on the side who are hurting, whether it's because of social issues and oppression and political forces, or whether it's because of individual, interpersonal pains, or even the demons that we hold within ourselves that we battle every day. God is on everyone's side, and God takes up the cause of the brokenhearted. God takes up the cause of the oppressed. We as Christians are called to do likewise, but that call comes after the promise that God is with us in our brokenheartedness, that God comes and stands by us figuratively. God is present with us always. God wraps God's arms around us and is present with us in that brokenheartedness and walks with us all the way through it. God promises to be there for us first, and then we are invited in return, when we are ready, to do that for others, to be Christ for others in that way. So wherever you are today, if you are in a place of brokenheartedness, I hope that you are open to receiving God's presence, and that might come in the form of a neighbor, or it might just come in the form of solitude, that whatever you need today. And if you are in a place where you are feeling grateful and the love of Christ is overflowing, I invite you to follow that and to stand in solidarity with the oppressed in our community, to sit and comfort those who grieve, those who have been mistreated. I invite you to reach out, because I think ultimately that's good for us too, being the one to connect, the one to be like Christ and stand in solidarity. It transforms us and makes us better as well. So let us join with the long history of saints who have come before us in this work of receiving love and sharing it. Let us join them today and always. I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing.